Excellent. So hope we can all hear me loud and clear. So if everybody's happy, I'll just make a start of the webinar. So everybody happy? I can make a start rather than waiting 9 minutes. We can make a start of the webinar. So welcome everybody to this evening's webinar. It's actually a masterclass. I keep calling it a webinar, so it's bad practice that. So it's a masterclass on GPX files. So we're going to look at GPX files. We're going to look at importing them, we're going to look at editing them, and we're going to look at some websites where we get those from. We've got some real life examples. So somebody's already emailed over some real life examples or problem cases, because this is what we're coming at. So I'm kind of trying to teach you how to read for the first time, understand what we can download from the internet, understand how we can manipulate and amend things that we download that are incorrect. That's the purpose of this evening. Who's leading the training course is myself. That's myself, John, with the black jacket on, with the green zips, looking very confused, looking out of the GPS unit. So I'm one of the directors of Shepherd's Walks Limited, which is the parent company of GPS Training. You must more than likely will have seen me on some of the YouTube films that we do. We do quite a lot of YouTube films these days. So you more than likely will have seen me wandering around the hills of Northumberland. So this is what we're going to cover. So we're going to look quickly at what a waypoint and route and a track is, just so we understand the differences between each of them. We're going to look at the maximum number of points in each of these, look at the navigational differences, and then we're going to download a day walk. We'll download a long distance trail. We'll edit a long distance trail. We'll look at reducing number of waypoints if we've got too many. Then we'll have a look at good websites where we can get these GPX files from. And then we'll have a quick look at the online resource where we have a GPX library within it. And then in the online resources, videos that back up this. But what I'll also do this evening is I'm making a recording of this. So again, tomorrow I'll just edit this Zoom call and I'll upload it to YouTube. I'll put it up as a what's called an unlisted video, so you guys can access it till the end of time. So that's what we'll be doing there. I've not heard anything back from anybody, so I'm assuming you're all PC users. So I'll base it on a PC. If anybody wants to let me know they're a Mac, please let me know in the chat box, and I can jump from one to the other. It does confuse me at times, but I can jump from one to the other. Very, very similar. Again, if there's any questions during the webinar, just ask in that chat box, and I will answer those as we go. So just basic terminology really is what we've got to look at. Is what is a waypoint, what is a go to a go, what is a route, and finally, what is a track. So basic terminology. Please apologize if you've been on a course or a webinar or something in the past. But again, we just need to get everybody's knowledge to a base level, then we can make a start of the day. So first of all, what is a waypoint or a POI? In the Garmin world, we call this waypoint. A waypoint is a fixed point in the ground, either where we are or somewhere we'd like to go to. Really, for us, the walkers, it's just a 10-figure grid reference. So waypoint is just a 10-figure grid reference, either where we are or somewhere we would like to go to. A go-to is a single leg from our current location to that waypoint. So if we were here and we want to go to that waypoint, a go-to is a single leg from our current location to the waypoint. The nice thing about a go-to is we can walk wherever we want to get to that waypoint. So this is a river, for example, that's crossing your footpath. If there's a bridge a little bit up the river, we can walk in a straight line, go up the river, cross the bridge, and still end up at that waypoint. And that's the key difference between that and a compass bearing. So if anybody's done any map and compass work, if we've got a compass bearing, we would do a compass bearing to that point. If we came across an obstacle, for example, that river, and we diverted from the navigation with the compass, we would have to then do another bearing to get back to that fixed point. But as I've said, the nice thing about a GPS unit is we can go wherever we want to get to this point. So when we come across the river, we can cross up the river. Here's my little bridge. We can start it, go across the river, and we'll still end up at this waypoint. So that's a key thing that's different than a compass bearing compared to a single leg go-to that we find on an outdoor GPS unit. And then a route is a collection of waypoints that have been joined together. So these are the waypoints, and you can see the route is the blue line that links them together. So this route goes from waypoint 1 to waypoint 26, to waypoint 9, to waypoint 43, to waypoint 3, and finally waypoint 4. So a route is a collection of waypoints or via points, if you want to be politically correct if we're using Garmin Basecamp, that have been joined together to create it. So the first question of the evening, does anybody know what the maximum number of waypoints we have in a route? Does anybody know what the maximum number of waypoints we can have in a route? If you know the answer, put it in the chat box and you win the star prize tonight, which is, I don't know, it can be whatever you want. So if anybody knows what the maximum number of waypoints, so we just guess. If anybody's got an idea, just type in the chat box if anybody knows what the maximum number of waypoints are in a route. 250. Simon is top of the class. Well done, Simon. Hey, Simon's top of the class. So the maximum number of waypoints is 250 waypoints. It's a figure we really need to remember, because when we start downloading routes from the internet, we need to remember this figure, because a lot of people don't know we have a maximum of 250 waypoints, and therefore when people create waypoints, they often put more than that within them, and then the problem is your GPS device won't work. Now, I don't want to confuse matter. This is the number we have when we do what we call direct routing, and that's what we're going to concentrate most of the time this evening. Just to be politically correct, or just to give you the true information, if we do what's called turn-by-turn routing, which we'll look at a little bit later, the maximum number of waypoints we can have in that is 50 waypoints. But for direct routing, which is the majority of the walking we're going to do, we've got 250 waypoints. If we're using turn-by-turn routing, the maximum is 50 waypoints. So I would say write that down, remember it. It's a really key number that we need to remember. And then finally, a track is a collection of track points that have been joined together. So in the diagram above, it's this red dotted line. So what will happen is at the start of a day's walking, we reset our trip and track data. The track is the breadcrumb trail our GPS leaves behind us. And every few seconds, our GPS creates what we call a track point. At any point during this walk, we can do what's called a track back and get the GPS to take us all the way back to the start. Or alternatively, at the end, we can save that track, which will be the record of where we've been. Now, when we're downloading GPX files from the internet, a lot of people will save these tracks. E.g., I've been for a walk, I really like it, I'm going to save it and share that on the internet. So when we're downloading GPX files from the internet, we need to understand whether it's a route or a track. Now, the second question of the evening is, does anybody know what the maximum number of track points are in a track? Does anybody know what the maximum number of track points we can have in a track? Now, don't forget, it's doing a track point every few seconds, so it's going to be considerably higher than 250. Let me know what the maximum number of track points we can have in a track. If you know the answer, pop it in the little chat box. One and a half thousand. No, it's a good guess, Simon. I'll tell you the answer. The maximum number of track points we can have in a track is 20,000 tracks points. So maximum number of track points we can have in a modern GPS unit is 20,000 track points. So this is something that you would never have 20,000 track points in a track. You would have to walk the length of Britain to have that amount of track points in it. So a lot of people have started planning their walks just using track points because of this figure. Okay, so you could navigate a track in its entirety. So a track, you could navigate a track. So you could, instead of making waypoints, you can make track points and join those together if you wanted to, and then you can have a maximum of 20,000 track points. But the difference between a waypoint, a route and a track is one thing, is the way we navigate on a GPS device with this. So the key thing we need to remember is if we're navigating a route, every time we hit a waypoint, we should get an audible beep on our GPS unit. So the audible beep will tell us that we're reaching a waypoint and we're going to be changing direction. So as long as we plan our route properly, or whoever's planned that route, as we hit a waypoint, you should get an audible beep on your GPS unit. Because there's so many track points in a track, e.g. it's been making every couple of seconds, it's a completely silent navigation. So when we're navigating a track, it is silent. So this is why some people like tracks, because it's silent navigation. I personally like a route because I like to be notified that I'm reaching a junction, I can look at my GPS and work out where we need to go. So the key thing between a route and a track is, I'm just going to clear my diary. Key thing with a route and a track is the number of waypoints is 250 waypoints in a route. Track points in a track is 20,000 track points in a track. And the other key thing to remember is the navigation experience. So when we're navigating a route, we get an audible beep when we hit it, audible beep when we hit it. With a track, we get a silent navigation. Your GPS will just flow through that track. And that's the key thing really between a route and a track. Once we know that, and then we start downloading routes and tracks from the internet, that we all hopefully make sense. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to jump on to Garmin Basecamp. Now, the people who are on early know that I discovered when I was waiting, this is actually a newish PC, and I realized that Basecamp was not on this computer. So I've just installed it as we've been waiting. I'm going to hold my hands up here. Actually, I sit in front of a Mac all day long. So I just jumped in front of somebody else's computer, which just happens to be our bookkeeper's computer. And because it was the newest computer in the office, I thought that's going to be the quickest and the best computer for this this webinar this evening. Not really thinking that it won't have Basecamp installed on, because why would our bookkeeper need to have Garmin Basecamp on her computer? So yeah. So Simon's asked, I think Simon's asked a question. Yeah, usually you're saying you've downloaded some routes from the internet, and often you're not getting an audible beep when you come across them. That's often the problem we encounter because the waypoints are not in the correct place. If somebody's created them, we should get a audible beep as we go over a waypoint at each moment in time. Now, what I'll do is I'll have a look and I'll show you some top tips on how we can edit those beforehand. So we can edit them to, it's usually we'll find that we're not getting an audible beep because we're not going over the top of the waypoints. And that's usually down to the inaccuracy of the Ordnance Survey mapping. What happens with Ordnance Survey mapping is where the routes are, where the footpaths are marked on the Ordnance Survey mapping is actually not where we're walking, where e.g. that's not where they are on the ground. And that's a problem we encounter quite a bit. So again, that's usually why we don't get that audible beep. But I'll show you some top tips. I'll write down here, top tips of editing route. Good stuff. Right, Garmin Basecamp. I'm just going to quickly, you'll do this already. Let's get my mouse back to it. So I'm just going to, because it's the first time this has been set up, I'm just going to quickly set up Garmin Basecamp. Now, hopefully you've done this already. Key thing we need to do is change this British National Grid. So you're more than likely have already done this. I'm just quickly setting up Garmin Basecamp. So it's got all the information we do. Okay, so that's Garmin Basecamp quickly set up. I'm just going to change the activity at the top to direct routing, because that's what we're going to work in the most. Okay, so hopefully you know way around Garmin Basecamp. I'll quick flying visit around Garmin Basecamp, and fingers crossed you know how to use it. It's not really a webinar on Garmin Basecamp, but we need to know how to use it before we start importing GPX files. So my collection in the top left is what we have on our computer. So my collection is what's stored on our computer, that's there. Now within that, we make what we call lists, sorry, folders and lists. So within my collection, I can create a new list folder. This is a brand new copy of Garmin Basecamp downloaded 10 minutes ago. So in there, I can create a folder. Now the folder, I could just call it as GPX Masterclass. So everything that we create is just like a PC. Everything we create, we can put in this folder. Now, within the folder, we have what we call lists. Think of lists as pieces of paper. So we could call this like first GPX download. Okay. Now, if this was a used copy of my collection, I could have something like a new list folder could be long distance trails. Okay, and within the long distance trails, if I could spell, it might help. We could have lists that consist of something like, we could come to this Hadrian's Wall Trail. Etc. So hopefully you understand. So your list is like your sheet of paper that you're going to work on. What happens is when you click on the list, get my drawing tool. When you click up the list at the top here, the top left-hand corner, you'll see here's the list here down the bottom, Hadrian's Wall Trail, and it says this list is empty. All right. So whenever we click in that top left-hand pane, it shows in that bottom left pane. It does. So this is what's on my computer, which is my collections. And then down below is my GPS device. Again, yours will look slightly different. So I've got a Garmin GPS Map 66i here. And underneath is the internal storage of my GPS device. If I click on the internal storage, you'll see down that bottom left-hand pane, it shows you everything on my GPS units. All right. So this is, it's just a clutter of rubbish, my GPS unit. I can only apologize about it. So here's the different things that are on my GPS unit. So I'm a bit overwhelmed by all the rubbish. These things are waypoints. The blue flags are waypoints. These are routes. Okay. And these are what we call tracks. Okay. So these are all the things that are on my GPS device. So here's a walk called Copper Snout. There's a route called Christmas Tree Walk. And here's all the tracks down here that we've got on it. Now, to go to a certain location on the map, there's a number of ways we can do it. Easiest way is we can just select the map set. Now I've got 125,000 maps on here. It might be slightly different if you've got 150,000, but we need to select the map area that we want to search from, and then we can just search for a location. So we can just search for Rothbury in our case and be totally biased of where we are. Double click on Rothbury, and the map will center on Rothbury. Now you'll notice all this clutter on the map, because at the moment I'm actually clicked on my internal storage of my GPS device. So it shows me everything on my internal storage of the GPS device. And you can see there's routes on there. This red is a track that's on there. There's all sorts of information on there. Now, if I click on the new clean list, you can see my map goes completely clear. It does. So this is why we have these lists, and this is what we want. You don't want to be working on your internal storage of your GPS device, because you end up with this cluttered mess of all the things that are on your GPS device. Yes, mine is more cluttered than what it should be, but actually that's the way it is, really. That's the way it is. And then this shows you what it is. I'm just going to show you this. I think this will be what it is. Yeah, that's what it's 16.2. Anyway, so these are routes and tracks. These are the routes that have been saved on it. So basic navigation is whatever we click in that top left-hand pane, it clears that map. The other way we can go to a location is I can click on one of these routes. So if I said I wanted to go to wherever this track is, I don't know, let's say this track. It's actually a track here. If I wanted to click on a location, I can click on a track. So if I want to go to a location, I can click on a track, and it takes me to where that track is on the map. So again, I know I spoke to Roma yesterday on the phone, and she said, "Oh, people seen I did that long distance walk, did 180 miles in 48 hours. Here's my legs on my computer from this. So this is my leg 8, which is from Almouth to Felton. There's my leg 9 from Felton to Rothbury. So those are my tracks that I will have walked in that long distance walk. So again, I can view those on my computer. So a number of ways we can go to a location. We can just search for it in that top right-hand pane, or alternatively, we can find something on our GPS unit and we can literally just double click on it and do that. So I can click on that, and there's a return route. So this is my Christmas Day walk. I think we went out for Christmas Day walk. So that's what we can see on the computer. Okay, so that's your basics of Garmin Basecamp, and hopefully that all makes sense. Now, what this webinar is about is about importing GPX files. So GPX files are the way that other people will share route files or track files with you, and they class it as a GPX file. Just like a Word file is a .doc file, a .gpx file is a way that people share. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to bring up a internet browser, which is there. You've got the Zoom. I'm just going to go into Google and I'm going to type in .gpx Hadrian's Wall. So what I'm literally going to Google and I'm searching for Hadrian's Wall .gpx, and you'll see that in Google it just throws up lots of different websites. You'll start seeing familiar websites. It's just like reading a book. It's like going to the library and say, I like that author, I don't like that author. You'll find authors you like, or people who create GPX files you like. You'll find people you dislike. So let's have a quick look. walkingclub.org.uk, gps-routes.co.uk, Scotland's finest.nl, National Trail website, Walk Hadrian's Wall. So I'm just going to go to the top one here, which is Walking Club. Every website is going to be slightly different, but what we're looking for on every website is .gpx, aren't we? We're looking for the GPX file. So as soon as we go into this one, fairly simple, okay? So here's the GPX. I must agree to the terms on this website, and I must agree to the terms before downloading it, and I'm going to download a GPX file to this computer. And you can see I've got it, I'm in Google Chrome, and it's just downloaded it to my download section. You see the bottom left-hand corner, I'm there with my mouse. I'll quickly show you where it is. So when you download something on Google Chrome, it ends up down that bottom left-hand corner of your computer, doesn't it? Again, if alternatively, it could go to, if it depends on what browser, it could go to top right. You could click on the 3 right bars and it goes to downloads there. Again, different browsers, slightly different, but you just need to know where your downloads end up. All right, so clear my mouse. So once I've got it on my download section, I can then jump back in to Garmin Basecamp. I've already created a list of where it's going to end up. So wherever I click here is where my GPX file is going to end up. And I literally go to the top, file, import into Hadrian's Wall Trail. I'm looking for the downloads on my computer, and there's only one download, Hadrian's Wall path.gpx. I literally just press open on that. I click on it first, sorry, click on it and press open, and that will import the GPX file into my computer. Okay, there's a strange one waypoint. I don't know why there's one waypoint. Click that. And then there's this. Does anybody know what I've downloaded here? Can you put in the chat box? Do you think it's a route or a track? Does anybody know what I've downloaded, a route or a track? What have I downloaded? A route. Well done, Simon. Okay, I've downloaded a route. Now, straight away for a long distance trail, I've not even looked at it, but this fills me with total fear because I've downloaded a route. As we've just discussed, the maximum number of waypoints we have in a route is 250. Now, I know this is an 84-mile long distance trail crossing the country, and by the looks of it, there's more than 250 waypoints in it. I'm going to double click on it, and it brings up what we call my route dialog box on a PC. Now, because it's the first time this computer's opened up a route dialog box, there's a little box down at the bottom and it says more info. What you need to do is, let's highlight it, down at the bottom it says more info. If this is the first time you've done this, you need to just click that little box down the bottom that says more info, and you'll see when you've done that, it brings up this information box at the top, which is a summary of the walk. So 82.9 miles. I thought it was 84 miles on Hadrian's Wall Trail, but hey ho, what do I know? But what fills me with fear is number of waypoints or via points is 418. Don't get concerned whether via points or waypoints, it's just terminology. 418 waypoints. The problem with this is, and this is why we do the webinar, is this will not work in a Garmin GPS device. The problem with this, if you load this into your GPS device as a route, as you go where to or find and then select routes, you'll see the Hadrian's Wall Trail at the top. You press click on it. We'll look at this a little bit later on how you get to it, and it will come up saying too many waypoints. All right, so it will not work in a way. So we've been online, we've found the top search result for the Hadrian's Wall path, and it won't work in a GPS unit. Does anybody know what we could do to this route to make it work in a GPS unit? And let me get any ideas of what we could do. This is all this webinar is finding the solution to what we come across. Let me know if we download a route with 418 waypoints, what could we do to make this work in a GPS unit? Is there any ideas? We could create a track. Roma, fantastic. We could create a track. That's one thing we could do. We could delete some waypoints. Rosemary, fantastic. Wow, you're on it, you guys. Well done, you. Brilliant. We could delete some waypoints. We could edit the routes to reach the waypoints. Brilliant. Hear me clapping here. Fantastic. Oh, I wish all my groups were as good as you. Brilliant. So there's a number of things we can do. So I'm going to do it in the order that you gave me. So you could create a track. You could create a track out of this. Literally find the route, right click on it, and we can see create track from selected route. Fantastic. We could create a track from a selected route, and there we are. Brilliant. What I'm just going to do, I'm just going to move this out of the way. I'm just going to cut it and put it up here and paste into here, just to get it out of the way. We'll come back to it in a minute, just so we keep it nice and clean. So now we have a track of the Hadrian's Wall Trail. Maximum number of waypoints in the track is 20,000. We can double click on it. It gives us the same information. This time it's a track, and we can see the number of track points is 418. Absolutely fantastic. Next thing we can look at with this track is it's walking from east to west. If we want to walk Hadrian's Wall the correct way, from west to east, we have the wind behind you, we could reverse this as well. So we can just right click on it and we could invert the selected track. And you can see these arrows now have gone the opposite way. All right. So when we've downloaded a track, you can see the arrows are facing that way. If I wanted to, I can invert it again, and you'll see the arrows now have moved. Of course it would move. Why would they stay in the same place when I want to draw on them? And you can see now the arrows are pointing the opposite way. So when we've downloaded it, we can swap it around the way that we've going. So that's the first thing that we can do when we do it. We'll come back to this track in a minute. I'll talk back through what else we could have done to this. So Roma said we could create a track of it. Somebody said we could delete some waypoints. Brilliant. So if we want to delete some waypoints, if I just get rid of this, I'll show you why. I'm just going to delete it. I'm going to go back into my original route. If I want to delete some waypoints, I could go in and physically delete it. A really nice shortcut of getting around this is create it, convert it to a track. So exactly the same, create a track from the selected route. Okay, why is he doing this? Let me get rid of this. Just keep it nice and clean. I'll put this back up here. So now I've got the track. Now, if I want to walk it as a route, I can convert it back to a route. So this time, if I've got a track, I get the option to create a route from the selected track. Now look what happens next at the next dialog box when it says, track conversion options. Enter the maximum number of via points to create while converting a track to a route. Ah, oh, brilliant. So we know the maximum number is 250. So let's put 249. Hooray. We've created a route with a maximum of 249 waypoints. Because the computer's generated it, it's actually made it 238. I'm happy with that. Okay, so excuse me. If you download a route that's got too many waypoints and you want to walk it as a route, we can convert it to a track, convert it back to a route, and then now it's got the right number of waypoints. And that's the way that we can do that. So that's an option there available. Why I've got this in the route, I'll actually move up. Say somebody put edit route to reduce waypoints. Yeah, I can move on to that as well now. So first of all, I don't know why the world believes they should walk Hadrian's Wall the wrong way around. So let me just get rid of this track and we'll work on the route. Okay, first of all, if anybody's walked Hadrian's Wall, we should be walking it from west to east. So I'm just going to invert this route. Okay, so now we're walking it the right way around. Now, the problem with having a route or a track of the whole of the Hadrian's Wall Trail is. If you've been following anything on your GPS, you know, it might bring up the next PowerPoint actually there. I'll just bring this up, make it into full screen. Okay. When we're navigating something on our GPS unit, we navigate on one of two pages, don't we? So when we load a route or a track into our GPS unit, we navigate on one of the two pages, either the map page on a Garmin GPS device, which has your routes at the bottom here. So we can see the route here that we're navigating along. And we often get, you can put that compass rose at the top. I won't go into how we do that this moment in time, but that's an option. Or alternatively, we can navigate on our compass page. And at the top of our compass page, speed we're walking at, distance to next waypoint, estimated time of destination, and time to next waypoint. We get those dialog boxes at the top. Now, I know those are interchangeable. We can change them, but this is how by default a Garmin GPS unit looks like. The problem is, if we're navigating a route along the whole of the Hadrian's Wall Trail, which is 84 miles or 82.9 miles according to this route, I don't know why that is. But anyway, this estimated time of destination is going to give you a completely useless figure, isn't it? It's going to say, right, John, you're walking at 2.8 miles an hour. You're going to get to the end in 62 hours time. 84, 40, I'll get there in 30 something hours time, won't it? A completely useless fact, unless I'm walking the whole of the Pennine Way, the Hadrian's Wall Trail in one, which I'm not going to. So the best thing to do is to actually cut this down into your day-by-day sections on what we do. So if we cut it down the day-by-day sections, end slide, so cut it into day-by-day sections, this will then give us the figures. Now, if I quickly jump back to, if you can understand this in practice, if I jump back to when I did my long walk, people know 118 miles in 48 hours. I did it in legs. I walked in one go, but I did it in legs. My first leg from to Kelso, my second leg to Jedfoot, my third leg to this. And the reason I did it is I did everything in 11.3 mile legs. So I was walking 11.3 miles. I know I was navigating to a place called Felton. My support team were at Felton for me. And my GPS says, right, John, you're walking this speed. You're going to get to Felton at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then I can say to my support team, they say, what time are you be there? I'm going to get there at 10 o'clock. Rather than me saying, actually, I'm going to get to the end of my walk at 2 o'clock this afternoon. They go, that's okay, but what time you get to Felton? I think I'm going to be there about this time. Totally useless information. So that's why when I did my walk, my walk is separated to 18-mile leg, an 11.3 mile leg, 14.8 mile leg, etc., etc. So this is where you do your legs, which then will make sense into what you do. So let's jump back to our long distance trail, which is Hadrian's Wall Trail. So which is there, it's not that one, it's that one we're working on, isn't it? So there's a number of ways we can do these legs. So this is the Hadrian's Wall Trail. Now in Garmin Basecamp, I can just go up the top and just zoom in to it. So if you've booked your walking holiday with a quality walking holiday company like Shepherd's Walks Holidays, other holiday companies are available, you will get some route instructions say, on day one, you'll start at Bowness on Solway and your accommodation is Carlisle. And your accommodation at Carlisle is here, or something along those lines. It's not very clear because it's blue on blue. If I change it to red, it might help. Right, okay, your accommodation is here. Actually, it's not there. I'll find you somewhere nice to stay. Right, let's zoom in a bit on Carlisle. So if you walk with a holiday company, they'll give you instructions of where your accommodation is. So your accommodation, if you come on a Shepherd's Walks holiday, more than likely would be just up here. Nice hotel just up there. So this is the Hadrian's Wall Trail. So we need to come off the trail at this point and go up that road. So what we do in Garmin Basecamp is we select the route we want to edit. So I've selected the route. Okay, you can see it's turned blue when I select it. And when I go up the top, I've got some tools at the top. And one of them in that top left-hand corner looks like a pair of scissors, and it's a cut tool, it is. All right. Hopefully you can see it up at the top left, it's a cut tool. If you see, if I click on the cut tool and come on to the, where's my, oh, sorry, let me undo what I've done. If you do make any mistakes, just edit, undo. So edit, undo. So if I click on the, why is it not letting me edit it? When I edit it, it lets me, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you what it is. This is not set up properly. View, toolbars, edit features. Right, sack me. When I click on the top, I've got my edit features. It's this tool at the top, sorry, called the divide tool, not the cut tool. Ignore me. It's the divide tool at the top. If I click on the divide tool, when I come down, you can see I get some little scissors here. So what I can do is, you can see as I move along this route, it turns black and orange. It's maybe quite hard to see. So if I click on here, it splits my route to that point. It says, do you want the two routes to share this waypoint? I don't want to share that waypoint. So what you'll see now, I've got two routes. If I go back up to my hand tool, I've now got two routes. I've got the rest of Hayden's Walk Trail and my day one, haven't I? All right. So my day one, I can rename if I want to. So I can rename that Hayden's Walk Path day one. If I want to double click on it, I can bring up the route dialog box, 43 waypoints, 14.3 miles. Absolutely perfect. All right. So therefore, my day one, I'm going to start Bowness or Solway, and I'm going to end up at Carlisle at that location. Now, you've got other tools as well. If you want to be really very precise, if you click on your day one, you've got these tools up the top here, and we've got the option to move points, erase points, and insert points. So I could just move that last point actually to my accommodation, couldn't I there? I could then use the insert tool and insert a waypoint, which is not wanting me to do for whatever reason. It won't let me do it. I'll just use the move. Sometimes it doesn't. I'll just use the move tool. I can move that there, move that there. And that then gives me the option. I'm determined to get the insert tool. They are, the insert tools working this time. Okay. And therefore, this now is a route that takes me all the way to my accommodation. It's now 14.9 miles in length. Nice thing is, we're walking down the route. It's going to tell me what time I'm going to get to my accommodation. So if we have a late start and the accommodation rings up and say, oh, we were expecting you at 5:30. Where are you? You could say, don't worry, we're going to be there at 6:30, because your GPS will tell you at the speed you're walking at what time you're going to get to your destination. And the nice thing is, because you've edited this route, you can get to that destination by that time. So this is day one. Now this is the rest of the trail. So we can carry on and edit this. So simple as, we can actually change the color. Let's change the color, which makes it look nice and easy. And then we can start editing the rest of it. So our day two, let's drag it into position. We can actually move those waypoints again. So it starts from our accommodation. We can be really quite sophisticated. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. So we know where our accommodation is, and we can just insert a few waypoints. So another waypoint, and we can start doing that. Whenever I inserted it, I just press the escape key on my keyboard, go back and touch the hand tool, and that's me editing it. Now, I've just shown you what we can do if we know where you're going to be staying. That's no problem. You booked with a holiday company, they told you where you stay, you've done your research, that's brilliant. If you don't know that information, you do have another option that you can work through. And the other option, we can measure how far we want to walk. So I'm going to use a completely different exercise for this next section. So up at the top, you see you have this little measure at the top. So click on the measure at the top, and you see I get this little ruler. And as I come down, I can click on my route, and you can see it's measuring how far it is. Now, you don't have to be super accurate. We're just going to use this as a rough guide, so 1.5 miles in, and you can say, right, I want to walk 15 miles a day. I'm going to carry on and measure. I'm up to what? 3 points. So when I hit the corner, you can see I can just keep clicking to do it. And I can just click. If I hit the edge, you can see it turns to a arrow. I can move my map. Again, I can move my map up when I hit the edge. Alternatively, even when you're measuring, I can use these tools here to move myself around. And I can measure how far I want to walk. So I can use my little measuring tool to say, right, This is how far I want to walk. I'm just using this now to move. Okay. And when you get to the location, you can say, right, that's 8.65 miles. I'm happy with that. That's the distance. Brilliant. You can just do exactly the same. Just go up to your pan tool. So we know this is where we're going to get to, which is 8.6 miles. I can then get my little divide tool and cut it accordingly. All right. And there's my route cut according. It's actually cut it all the way back there, hasn't it? If you make a mistake, just go to edit, undo, and that undoes the mistake. So really, I should be cutting on a waypoint. So click on my route. That's really where I want to be dividing it. Do I want to share it? No. And then I've ended up with my 2 routes, don't I? So this now is my day 2, which is my 8.6 miles. So I can rename that. Okay. And this is the rest of my trail, isn't it? And I can change the color of it and I can keep going at it. So that's what we can do. So we can download a GPX file from the internet, and then we can edit it according to, we can edit it into your day by day section. So instead of me clicking and creating that route from scratch, I've downloaded a GPX file. It was actually a bad GPX file. We've converted it to a track. We can edit the track in the same way, and we'll look at that example in a few moments time. And then we can edit that accordingly into what we've done. I'll do another example of a long distance trail, but again, before I move on, is there any quick questions? It gives me an excuse to have a sip of water. Any quick questions on what we've done? Again, I'll quickly go over this. It's been quite a hard one to start off with, because I actually didn't know that was going to be a route that was bad. When I did it, I thought it was going to be a good one to start off with, but it wasn't. We started off with the worst. We'll look at good practice next. We've already looked at bad practice. If there's any questions about that, give me a shout, and if not, we'll look at importing something else. Okay. No questions is good. Hope I've not gone too fast for anybody. Again, you have a recording of it. There's quite a lot for us to work through. Okay, so that's an example of the Hayrenswall Trail. Now, there's other places we can look at it. So we've looked at going onto the internet and just Googling, is it possible to look at Walk Island sometimes? Yes, we are. Alex, we will do our day walk from Walk Islands, don't you worry. It's good practice. It's a great website, very good website. So well found. When we look at day walks, we'll use Walk Islands as is. Now, as well as just finding like Googling a website, you might know of other websites where you can download those from. Now, again, I know not all of you may have access to it, but on the GPS training online resource, so, and again, on our website, we have this online resource, the top menu bar. On the online resource, if you go to courses at the top, right down at the bottom, you'll see one that says GPX library. If you've bought your unit from us in the last year, you'll have free access to this, or alternatively, you can pay £50 a year to access to it. And you'll see here is long distance files for national trails in the UK. So I can click on there and it brings up long distance trails that we have. So there are Cleveland Way, Cotswolds Way. These are the national trails. And then we've got non-national trails. So Hayrenswall Path, we've just looked at there, North Downs Way, South Downs Way, Offers Dyke, etc., etc. So let's look at the Pennine Way. If you want to download the Pennine Way, just click on that. Exactly the same practice, ends up in the download section on the computer. Again, what we can just do then is long distance trails. We can create a new list. Excuse me, Pennine Way. Okay. And we can go to File, Import into Pennine Way. There's my GPX file, import it there. Okay, and there it is as a track. So good practice usually is long distance trails. A good download really should be a track. It gives you the flexibility to do what you want with it. So the only question I would have is, I don't see, most people tend to walk south to north of the Pennine Way. So again, we could reverse that if we wanted to. Invert selected track, and we can see the arrows are pointing the right way now. I'm going to say that because the spine race is going on at the moment, isn't it? Which is what we're doing the whole length of the Pennine Way. So double click on that and we can see the number of track points within it, 2,441. So again, that's brilliant. That's within that 20,000 tracks. And we could, if we wanted to, we could just send that to our GPS in entirety. I've not done that yet. So again, if I wanted to keep the whole of the Pennine Way in one go, I'll literally just right click, send to, find my internal storage on my GPS device and send it to the internal storage there. That's the Pennine Bridleway. When you send anything to your GPS unit, just click on your internal storage and look down. There's the Pennine Bridleway there. This is actually the Pennine Bridleway rather than the Pennine Way. Sorry, my mistake. I did say Pennine Way. So this is the Pennine Bridleway, which is the one that's fit for horses and mountain bikes, isn't it? All right. So that's sending the whole of the way there. I should actually rename this because actually it's incorrect. So it's Pennine Bridleway, not Pennine Way. Again, if I wanted to cut this into day-by-day sections, I could do exactly like I did last time. I could either work out where I'm going to walk each day or alternatively use the little measuring tool to do it. All right. Again, this is very, very rough. You can see I've kind of done 15 miles, 16 miles. So I'm going to walk from the start to Buxton is going to be 16 miles. That's more than likely where I do. And you can see how I can quickly work out where I need to be. If I want to edit that down, I can just zoom in. I have to change my maps. Oh no, the maps are coming in. Sorry. Stay there. So we kind of worked out we need to walk to Buxton, didn't we? Which was there, Buxton. So when I had a quick measure there, we worked out it was so many miles to Buxton. I can just zoom in on Buxton and I can quickly just work out, right, I'm going to walk to here. I can quickly just cut this here at this point, and then I've got my, now, if you don't know which one's which, you look, as I click on it, you'll see it, one gets bolder and one doesn't. So the first section is the bold one. The second section, when I click on it, is the bold one. So I know this is day one. I can double click on it, 18.9 miles, 165 track points. That's obviously great. 19 miles of my day on the Pennine Way. I literally can right click and I can rename that, can't I? Pennine Bridleway, day one. Now, this is not really what the webinar is about. I'm actually at the cross of a map set here because I've got 125,000 mapping. It's in actually a number of panes, isn't it? So again, I'm in Northern England. I must have to jump to West England and Wales, I think, is it? Yeah, West. Oh, no, it's not West England and Wales. Maps. It's going to be East England. It is East England. Never would have thought the Peak District was East England, but you learn every day, don't you? If you've got a 1 to 50,000 map card, you want to come across that problem, but you might need to just alter that map set. It's going to take a while to load by the looks of it. All right. So that's my day one. The map will slowly just come into view anyway. So that's my day one, and I can send that to my GPS. I would edit all my day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and that will do that accordingly. So that's how we tend to do a GPS. So that's really good practice and bad practice. So we looked at bad practice, which was a route with too many waypoints, and we looked how we can manipulate that and see how we could do it. And then we imported a track, which was good practice, and that can do. Now, I'll show you this at the end, but again, on our website, if you go to GPX Files, just on the search box, just go to GPX Files. We've actually scroll underneath what recommended best websites for downloading GPX Files. There's actually a list that we've collated for various things. So National Trail website, we've not even looked at today. GPS routes we looked at. Saturday Walkers Club, Walking Englishmen. So this is good websites for long distance trails. And then we're going to look at day walk. So I know Alex mentioned Walk Islands. We'll look at Walk Islands in a minute. Walking Englishmen, I'm just going to mention because it ties into both long distance trail. Walking Englishman is a really interesting gentleman. When we listen to the podcast, I've interviewed him on the podcast a number of years ago now, and he's this walking fanatic, not the most glamorous of websites, but really good website to get GPX files from. Long distance walks, there you are. He's got absolutely stacks up there. So if you fancy walking Wales coast to coast, click on that, and there he's got a Wales coast to coast GPX file for you. He does everything as tracks. It's quite good practice. A lot of them he actually will walk. Again, for here, I just look for GPX route files here. So just click on GPX route files. Everything on his website he calls track file, which is a little bit annoying, but that's the way it is. That's track file. So this was Wales coast to coast, wasn't it? So going to Garmin Basecamp, new long distance trails, new list. Click on my Wales coast to coast file, import into Wales coast and coast, and there's his track file. Okay. And there it centers the map on it. Again, it starts up at the north and down the bottom. I can choose my West England and Wales map. And then as I zoom in, I can see where we go. So again, a track, so it's good practice. Nothing really needs to be done on it. We can cut it into day by day sections if we want to, which would be good practice. Again, just double click on it, make sure it's less than 20,000 track points. It is 99.999% of the time. It will be, if it's a track, of course, it's going to be less than 20,000 track points. As you can see, a track there, 3,433. So again, we're talking 20,000 track points. We're going to be doing over 1,000-mile walk, aren't we, really? But again, I won't be scared of cutting that into my day-by-day sections. Either way, you know where you're going to be stopping that night, or alternatively, you can measure it and then just cut that accordingly. All right, so that's looking at long distance trails. I said on our website, there's a list of recommending best websites. I'll email, I think some of them in the email that I send you at the end anyway, but it's something we add to all the time. You know, people say, oh, have you seen this website? We keep adding to it. You'll see I flagged this page up quite a bit in newsletters. I've not done it for a little while now, but it's one we keep adding to as we do it. So that's long distance trails. Don't forget, access the online resource. There is a GPX library there of long distance trails. And also if you look in the online resource is transfer GPX download for Garmin GPS units for PC users. There's actually a video taking you through exactly what I've just done there. So again, I'm going to play it because I've pressed play, haven't I? So I'll show you about downloading it from the website, import it into Garmin Basecamp. And then I show you about, it was the Cleveland way that I show you about measuring it. There's me measuring it. Then I cut it. All right. And that shows you, so that there's videos in the online resource taking you through. And it's quite nice, the online resource, because I'm showing you how to download a GPX file from the online resource. So it's always going to be the same. So they're all tracks. The principle's the same. So again, the videos tie in very, very well. And again, I know you are all PC users, but if you've got a friend who are Mac users, you can use there. And there's also video there importing, exporting GPX files using third-party software as well. All right, so that is long distance trails. What we're going to look at next is day walks, and then we'll look at problems. Not that we have problems, we also have solutions to problems, don't we? Okay, day walks. Somebody mentioned Walk Islands. Walk Islands is a fantastic website. Believe it or not, it's based for Scottish walkers. Walk Islands. I always think of of these websites is like, these are like your favorite walking books. So in the past, we would go to a library or we would go into a bookshop and buy a book of walks in Scotland or walks in the Peak District. But now we have websites which gives you that information. Walk Islands is a classic example of this. So Walk Islands is a free website that you can download walks from. Okay, now when you look at this, there's the whole of Scotland, isn't it? choose an area with loads of different ways of doing it. Let's just go to the top and go to walks. Where are we going to go walking? Let's go walking in Loch Lomond. Oh, John, Loch Lomond. Okay, so in Loch Lomond, even within Loch Lomond, you can see it has a hover over areas. It highlights them. So Ben Lomond, Ben Moore. Let's see that. Right. Okay. So I want to go to this area. I can just click on it. And here's the plethora of walks that we've got in this area. And he grades them according to how difficult they are, or they do rather, and the distance of that walk. So let's look for Ben Moore. I've never heard of it before, but it was key on the map, so it must be quite important. Well, Ben Moore and Stob Benin. Hope Alex is not Scottish with my terrible pronunciation. Silence from the chat box. Okay, so I can click on that as the walk. Now, I don't know if you can hear this. I can hear my sounds. You can actually press it and it tells. So he even tells you how he says it. I think I can share my sound.
Top Binian is possibly peak of the anvil, from the Gaelic Inen, meaning anvil. Stop Binian.
I don't know if you heard that then. It even tells you English living in Scotland, Alex. Oh dear. Oh, you have the clearings again. Brilliant. I think you're in the right place at the moment, Alex. Well done, you. And everything that's going on in England at the moment. So you can click on here and learn how to pronounce it. And then what we're looking for is GPX file. Exactly the same as what we had before. So download gpsroutes.gpx. So you click on this, actually takes you to another page. And what they do is you agree to download it. And there you are. We download it there. Exactly the same into our GPX. So Ben Moore is in our download section. Go into Garmin Basecamp. This time I'm just going to create a new list folder called Day Walks. I'm going to rename this a new list as Scotland Trip. Okay. I go to File, Import into Scotland Trip, and there's my Ben Moore GPX file. Okay. Now, it's a route rather than a track. Now, straight away, we're still in looking at Anglesey by the looks of it. So we need to center the map on where we are. So if you remember from earlier on how we can center that map, we can just double click on the route and that will center the map on where we are. It also opens up the route dialog box. So straight away, we can look at the number of waypoints within that route. And we have 168 waypoints in that route, and it's 7.2 miles long. So pretty good. That route is walkable. You can see all the little waypoints underneath. Now, first of all, I need to just bring in the Ordnance Survey map. So I'm going to go to map. I'm guessing it's Northern Scotland. No, it's Southern Scotland. Okay. Okay. I would say looking at it, it's heavily waymarked. There's a lot of waymarks, and this is what we find a lot with Walk Island. So first of all, I look and go, where's my starting point? I think educated guess on this is, I think my starting point is going to be here, isn't it? But let's just see. There's a fair way of finding out where the starting point is. If you double click on that route dialog box, once it's in place, you can drag it away to the side. If I click on the first waypoint there, you see it puts an orange line around it. This orange circle around it, sorry. All right. If I then click on my last waypoint, it also puts an orange mark around, which is exactly at the same place. So my only criticism of this walk is my first and last waypoint are very, very close together. Now, rightly, what it's doing is this walk is we're going up here. Oh, let me get my little drawer. We're going up here by the looks of it. And then we're going to go around this walk either that way or the other way. Then we're going to come back along this way, aren't we? So this section, we're going to go that way, and we're also going to go that way. So when I look at that, I go, oh, pretty all right. But what you'll find is if your first and last waypoint are very, very close together, if you on your GPS press the magnifying glass where to, or find and select routes, if you're nearer to that last waypoint than you are to the first one, your GPS would actually navigate you directly to the last waypoint. It's actually quite embarrassing if you're with friends, because actually they're all looking, waiting you to lead this walk, and you can't even get out of the car park because your GPS is taking you to that last waypoint. So on something like this, what I would do is I would edit and remove those last waypoints. So as I see here, if I click on my last waypoint, it's there. Excuse my cough. If I hold down the shift key and the upward arrow, you can see I can highlight a number of waypoints. Now, you can see when I highlighted these 3 waypoints, it's actually gone orange there on the map, hasn't it? So these 3 waypoints, it's highlighted that it's orange there on the map. So it's indicated that I've highlighted those last 3 waypoints. And what I can do is I can just delete those waypoints. All right. So what I've done, I've deleted those waypoints. Now, wherefore, what I've ended up with is a really nice route that actually starts where I am. So when I start from here and get on my car, press where to, select routes, it's going to navigate me to this first waypoint, which is waypoint 1 more than likely. I'll then go on my walk, no problem, follow it around. It's under my right number of waypoints. When I finish, yeah, it will bring me down to the road, but I kind of know it's just a few short distance along there, isn't it? So I would always, like, even when you're downloading it from a good source, just use your skill now to kind of work out what's good or what's not. And that's a really good practice. And you'll find a lot of this with Walk Islands where people are obsessed with marking things. Like if I was marking this walk myself, and this is kind of jumping a little bit away from the GPX file. If I was waymarking this myself, I'll just jump onto there and see where we go. If I was waymarking this route myself, I would start my first waypoint rightly there, go up on my walk, do whatever I'm doing, and that's the way I would do it. And then my last waypoint I would make around this area here. All right. I'll come down to the road. I know I turn right, I know it's down there. So we call this, when you have your first and last waypoint very close together, we call this a closed route. It's actually not a very correct term, but closed route is when the first and last waypoint are very, very close together. We need them to be separated apart. So when you're downloading GPX files, if you can, download them and just delete those last few waypoints if you can, and we do that. We'll do another quick Walk Islands, then we'll jump onto somewhere else and we can have a look at that. So again, sticking with this principle of we like the website, we know where we're going, we can then go and download. So we're going to Scotland, and this time we're going to the Lowlands, we're going to go to the Scottish borders. All right, we're going to go to the Peebles area. I hear there's a very fine company that has a great GPS training course in Peebles. I think there'll be someone there who's sat here. It's going to be there at the end of this month. So in Alethan, Glen Tress. So Glen Tress circuit from Peebles. There's my GPX route file. I download that. Agree to download it. And there's my Glen Tress GPX down the bottom left-hand corner. So I'm going to go up to my Scotland trip. I'm going to just create a new list. Glen Tress. File, import into Glen Tress. There's my Glen Tress GPX. And there we are. It's a route again. Again, my map's not centered on it. I can double click and that will center my map on that. Hopefully my ordnance survey map will come. So it's Glen Tress from Peebles, if I remember rightly, it was called. Oh, now very similar problem that we saw on the other one. I'm assuming, we should not assume anything, but we're assuming the start and finish are here. But to find this out, we can just click on the first waypoint. I'm right, click on my last waypoint. There it is. Very, very close together. So I can let's just delete those last 2, 3 waypoints. You can see now the orange line is appearing. Let's delete the last 3 waypoints. I can just press the delete key if I want to. And then my first waypoint is there, and my last waypoint is just on the edge of Peebles. Again, it's got less than, I've got my waypoints there as well. Route options, graph will show the elevation of the walk, maps, reference. All right. So it's not actually showing me my stats because I've actually got routes. I must have, yeah, because I've got one highlighted, it won't show me the stats. So once I click out of that, it shows me I've got 83 waypoints in that route. So just one thing to bear in mind, if I click on a waypoint, I would lose my stats. I need to just click out of that and I get my stats from that walk. All right, so that's going to a website we trust, and we can download those walks accordingly. Once we've downloaded them, we can edit those accordingly for the best thing. Again, there's other ones here: GPS routes, Walking Englishman, Walking World. I think it's a subscription-based, Harold Street, Walking About, and Happy Hiker. The other thing we can do is exactly the same as we started off. We can just go to Google, can't we? So you can just go to Google and go .gpx file, .gpx. I don't know, we could go to Bournemouth, opposite end of the country. All right. Okay. Bournemouth backpackers.co.uk. 10 bicycle rides, half marathon, New Forest cycle routes. Okay. I've not done this. I just do random guesses. Let's have a look at this. Waylist. I always would a beta website. Waylist page for Winchester. Oh no, it's down the route. So to Hampshire cycling routes. GPX. Let's try walking routes then. Oh, GPS routes has come up then. We'll have a look at GPS routes and see what they've got there. So here's some routes. Again, this is quite a nice website, GPS routes, because again, you can see it is the coastal path here, but there's the GPX file for it. We'll have to just look up quick on this website. So we'll go walks in England. And we can choose the county that we want to. So again, we're on this good now. We've found this website. We can look for walks in Dorset. There's some walks in Dorset, 2 miles, 1 mile, 3 mile, 34 miles. So there's a nice Castleman Trailway. Okay, we can just click on it. It brings up more information, pubs and cafes, pictures of what we're going to see on the route, elevation. There's even a little video we could watch. That's very nice, isn't it? And then we can download the GPX file. So we can just click on it. There's the GPX file. So this was Castleman Trailway. Okay, we can go into new lists. File, import into Castleman Trailway. There's my GPX file. And there it is. A route. Okay, so I can double click on it. It sends my map on it. I need to just select the map. So I think it should be South England, East England, West England, and Wales. I've not got the right map, have I? So, it's East England. There you are. Okay, so there's my route there that I've just downloaded. If I double click on it, it brings up the waypoints, which are 54 waypoints. Yeah, Roman asked a question. She said, if I didn't delete the last waypoint, would Garmin sort itself out when you start walking? It should do, But if it doesn't, the easiest way is just to stop your navigating and do it again. So what happens if you've got, sometimes I have this problem. If you walk out on a leg and come back on a leg, sometimes your GPS gets a little bit confused. If your GPS is confused, e.g. it's determined to take you to that last waypoint and you know it's wrong, the best way is walk the direction that you know you're going to do, stop your navigation, and then reload that navigation between like waypoint 1 and waypoint 2, and your GPS will work out what you do. If you do walk long enough, it will work out what you need to, but it just prompts it a little bit if you do that first, if you kind of stop your navigation and do it. So here's my route here that we can do it. Now, early question, I think it was Simon many questions ago. He said, how come it doesn't always beep when he goes over the waypoint? The reason for that is let's do this as example, is the route is not being created exactly where the footpath is. So you can see the anomaly here between the 1 to 50,000 mapping. That looks all right. But actually, when you zoom into 1 to 25,000 mapping, you can see the inaccuracies of the Ordnance Survey map and the 1 to 50,000 as well as 1 to 25,000 mapping. So if I was walking along here I would be walking along and my arrow would be pointing off here to the left. If I then turn the corner, my arrow would be at 90 degrees pointing in the wrong direction. And then as I walk along the path, it would correct itself and go to the next one. As I come along the path here, it would point off to my right because it's heading that waypoint. Once I get wet, it would then log on to do it. So this is why sometimes you don't get that audible beep, because unless you go over the top of the waypoint, as in this case, you will not get an audible beep on the route. Now, there's a number of things you can do. Here is, if you download a track and you know somebody's walked it, that's going to be accurate, but we are not getting an audible beep because it's a track. But we could edit this accordingly. So if I wanted to, I could edit this. Now, I'm only editing it as good as the Ordnance Survey map is. The Ordnance Survey map is accurate, but inaccurate. So a number of GPS units, this might not work for everybody. A number of GPS units have other mapping options on them, something like topo-active mapping. Topo-active mapping is open source mapping that started from satellite imagery. So it's actually more accurate than the open source mapping. So if I select topo-active mapping for the Southwest, you'll see what topo-active mapping works on. Now, people say, I don't have this on my GPS, so I can only apologize if you don't, but a lot of new GPS units have this topo-active mapping on it. Things like the Garmin GPS Map 66SR, the new Montana 700, 700i, 750i, the 66SR, 66i, 65 range now has it built in. But a number of GPS units have this topo-active mapping built in. If you do have the topo-active mapping built in, you can see that it's actually a little bit more accurate than what the Ordnance Survey mapping. The problem with the topo-active mapping, though, is it shows everything as a path. It doesn't say this is a footpath, bridleway, or frankly, a private drive. So you can't just plan solely on topo-active mapping. But what you can use the topo-active mapping is download your route or your track and then use it to edit on. So in this case, I could look and go, do you know what? I can insert a waypoint here. All right, or I can move that waypoint here. So again, I can move this waypoint to this location and then I'll get an audible beep. Do you know what I mean? I can move that waypoint to there and that might be a better option. That waypoint looks okay. This is actually not as bad as some do. But if you can utilize the topo-active mapping. Sorry, I also mixed out eTrex 25 Ts and 35 Ts as well, and eTrex 32 X's and 22 X's. I don't know how I sleep at night knowing all these useless facts, but anyway, there you are. So you can, if you have topo-active mapping, as you can see here, you would never get an audible beep on your GPS unit because this is where the right of way is being plotted and this is where the route is taking you. If you are wanting to get that audible beep, I could edit this route accordingly, couldn't I? So a little bit of top tip there on how we could potentially do it. I could then also insert a waypoint there. I can insert a waypoint there. It's up to you how you do this, isn't it? It's up to you how precise you want this to be. So again, you can edit this accordingly, and the topo-active mapping is a way that you want to do. Now, if you want 100% accuracy. The only way you're going to get 100% accuracy is actually download a track that you have walked before. That's the only way you're ever going to do it, isn't it? Because there's always going to be inaccuracies in any map set that we do. So just a thought of where you can utilize your mapping that you've got on your GPS unit accordingly, and that will work. Now, I go back to my route planning process. If I go back to when I did my walk, I don't keep going about this, it's like a stuck record. I walk all my night sections I pre-walk them all. So you'll see that in my track planning in this case, because I didn't want this thing beeping at me for let's go back to Northern England. You'll see all my night sections that I walk are all walk sections. So you can see here, and you can say, how do I know that? I have a double click on this track here. Oh, it's not loading up. Why is it not loading up? There's my track data. You can see the accuracy. You can see my little man running along here. You can see I'm getting really accurate track data. For whatever reason, it's not loading my track. Of course, why would it do this? But you can actually see on the thing, my track points are very, very close together because I needed that accuracy of walking the night sections. So my tracks, this is a proper walk track. So you can see it's actually where it is on the ground. You can see underneath, if you're interested, my pre-planned route that I will have walked along to get my true track. And then I'm now in a section that would have been a daytime section that I will not have walked. So when I'm doing a walk, I actually slot together sections that I've walked. If it's a night section, I would always try and pre-walk it. And you can see here, this is the actual route I had planned. And this is my track I actually walked, but then I transferred that onto my GPS device and actually walk that track when I actually do that. So it's a case of, it's just using the skills. It's a, hey, there's no right or wrong way, but you can see there's my original route and there's the track that I walked. There's my original route. There's the track that I walked. So you can see inaccuracies. Look at this. The only time you get a really true accurate thing is when we do that. All right. Any questions on what we're going to do? Okay, what I'm going to finish off with, I'm going to show you what happens if you come across a problem GPX file. So Roma emailed us these earlier on. So fingers crossed, Roma, they don't work for me as well as you. And then we'll look at some solutions. So touch wood, when you import things off the internet and import them into Basecamp, we now know what we're importing: routes, tracks. We know about maximum waypoints, maximum track points. We know that our start and finish shouldn't be close together. And we also know if it's a long distance trail, we can edit that accordingly to our personal requirements. And we can also edit whatever we bring in, whether it's a route or a track, and amend that to our personal requirements if you want to. It depends how accurate that you want this whole thing to be. But sometimes we get a GPX file which does not want to import into it. So if you just all close your eyes for a minute, I paste it somewhere we can go. Right, I'll just jump onto our intranet, and then I will just jump down to where we have fresh test. Okay. Where did I put it? 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 Put it somewhere here because I thought I won't lose it, but I put it here. That's what I did. Remember, this is how we manage our emails into the business. So we have this it's called. I'll put it down here as the notes section. Okay, so Roma was sent this web page, the 43rd Winter Tanners. Excellent. 8th of January. No pressure. Oh, Sunday the 16th of January. Sorry, 16th. So that's this Sunday, is it? Okay. No pressure on me here to do this. So are we doing, Roma, are we doing the 30-mile walk or the 20-mile walk here? I see there's two routes to avail. There's a 20-mile GPX and a 30-mile GPX. Can you just type in which one you're doing? 30-mile. I'm impressed. Very good. So this is an event that Roma's doing, and she's got the GPX file of 30 miles. So we'll just click on here. It'll take me to this 30-mile walk, and I've downloaded it into Garmin Basecamp. So because I'm lazy and I can't be bothered to type, I'm just going to copy and paste what it's called. So I'm going to bring it into here. New list. I'm just going to paste. Okay, the winter tanners. Right. So import into winter tanners. There's a GPX file. Hooray, this is what she was seeing. Well done. Bet she's relieved, are you, Roma? That's it on me. So sometimes when we bring a GPX file into Garmin Basecamp, it comes up with this error. For whatever reason, the following error occurred during the import. It doesn't like what it's going to do. So whatever reason, we cannot import this into Garmin Basecamp, but there is a solution that we could work around to do it. No pressure, looking forward to the answer. In the online resource, there's actually a little video on Garmin Basecamp. Oh, John, Garmin Basecamp, Windows users. And Basecamp top tips for Windows user, converting GPX files that will not import to Basecamp software and display an error. So this is our little solution to it. There's a video taking through, but I'll take you through. There's a very good website called GPS Visualizer. It's called GPS Visualizer. So we go to let's go to Google and go GPS Visualizer. Okay, GPS Visualizer. Now, GPS Visualizer is a website that lets you convert files. So again, we're not going to get too into this, but we can convert KML files into GPX files. We can convert all sorts of things into various files. So what we found is what we can do is we can import a GPX file, which is our dodgy GPX file. Okay. And it says, what output format would we like it to do? We actually choose .gpx. So what we're doing is importing it as a GPX file, which is causing us problems, and we're converting it to a GPX file. It makes no sense, but it works. So what we're actually doing is cleaning this file through this software. So we convert it there. Okay, then GPX Visualizer is working hard to clean it. And it's created this little file here called download data GPX. So I've just clicked on it and it's downloaded here with this very long file. All right. So fingers crossed, when we go to this very long file, I go to File, Import into Winter Tanners. There's my GPX I've just cleaned, and it imports it into Garmin Basecamp. So it's a track, absolutely brilliant. Let's double click on it. 30.7 miles. Roma, you've been conned. It's more than 30 miles. 30.7 miles is the length of the track. Graph. Straight away, it tells me somebody's walked this. This is not somebody's planned this track. Somebody's walked this track beforehand because we've got more accurate elevation data. Okay, so that is your GPX file. I'm just going to, I don't even know where country we're going to be. West Wales, England, are we? Anyway, there will be maps out. Why don't I just show you on the topo active mapping? Okay, so if I was doing this, Roma, I would have no, like, for me, this is somebody's walked it. It's absolutely perfect. For whatever reason, they've not saved it in a format we've done it. There's no need to edit it, because if straight away from all those track points, somebody's walked this, I can see that it's being walked. You can see the way it hugs the path. I've overlaid it in the most accurate path. I can see it's absolutely perfect. So straight away, I will always do this before I'm going to do an event or something. Have a quick look. Must be some toilets there or something. I don't know, because it looks like they're going to somewhere. Is that a checkpoint maybe? And then back again. But that shows me it's beautiful. It's like it's properly done, even though we couldn't open it. And there we are. Checkpoints. There you are. Well done. So even by just looking at that with my trained eye, I can look and go, fantastic. I've overlaid on top of active mapping, which is the most accurate we can look at. Again, you can see even the inaccuracy of the top of active mapping there. Absolutely brilliant. And that's the way we can do it. All right. So if I wanted to, I could rename that. So if I wanted to, I can leave it at track 001, but why don't we just right click and rename it? Call it Winter Tanners. Okay. And then finally, what you're gonna have to do is send that to my GPS. Send to, I'm gonna send it to my internal storage. Now we'll send it to my internal storage. You'll see what happens when I send it. It goes red, then green. I click on there and I can scroll down on my, there it is, down right down at the bottom, Winter Tanners. Now, when I click on it and it's on my internal storage, I'm actually seeing it on my GPS. These are the files now on my GPS. So I can see that's on my GPS file, on my GPS. I'm completely confident of what we're going to do. So that's going to work no problem. So what we've done there is by using that website, which is GPS Visualizer, we've imported a GPX file, exported a GPX file, and that's what we did. So again, it's a simple way going forward, right down the website. If you have access to the online resources, videos taking you through what I've just taken you through there. But actually, you know what, you're going to get a copy of the webinar anyway. So keep this at hand. And then if you come across it, it's a rare thing you'll come across. But we used to get a number of people like Roma who said, oh, I've got this, it's not working, I need it to work. What can we do? And this was our little solution. And touch wood, it always seems to have worked to date. So that's where we can go from there. Okay, so that's how to sort out something that it doesn't work. I'm just going to finish off with the presentation. If there's any questions, just shout as I'm finishing off, and I'll show you quickly the online resource, and I'll show you quickly the websites that we have looked at this evening. Again, I've said when we're navigating it, this is what we're going to see on our GPS unit. We're going to press find or magnifying glass where to select routes or tracks according to what it is, and then we will navigate that accordingly. And this is the navigation experience that we would get on this GPS device. If people haven't done so, I really would encourage you, if you kind of say, I don't really understand what I'm going to be seeing when I'm walking. I keep going on about this. Is I do this series which you'll see in the newsletter. If you just scroll down the homepage, it's called A Walk and Talk. Let me take you on a walk with a GPS unit. Again, if you're unsure of what you should be experiencing, have a look on here. If you scroll down, introduction video at the top, quick links to GPS units in this series. Again, even if it's not your unit, watch it. On all these GPS units, I do something different every time. So ETRX35T, when I plan my routes at the start, I plan it on ordnance survey mapping, and then I overlay it on the topo active mapping, just like we just encountered there. So I overlay it on the topo active mapping, edit it, and then I show you the navigation experience that we get. So again, the navigation experience, these are videos, just sit down and watch them, and you'll see the navigation experience. I'll take you on a walk. This is a 18-minute video, and it takes you on that walk. It gets you used to good practice, what you should be seeing. And now they're all different, and it just gets your head into gear of what you should be seeing on this ETRX32X, and navigate just with topo active mapping. And I take everything to its extreme. ETRX10, £100 GPS unit. I show you how you can plan on ordnance survey mapping, transfer it on your GPS unit, and navigate with £100 GPS units. And you don't need ordnance survey mapping on it. So I do, on some of them, I import GPX file. Just off the top of my head, 65S, I import a GPX file. On the 62S, I can't even see, 62S, I import a GPX file of the Board Abbey Way in that case. Import the GPX file into it there. Import a GPX file.
But I'm just going to...
I edit it accordingly, and then I transfer it onto my GPS. So I keep watching these things, they're free, and it refresh and refresh and refresh. And I did one on Saturday, and this is taking it to its total extreme, this. And again, have a look at 66I, sorry. Just upload this one today, where I went out, did a 50-mile walk on Saturday, fantastic, but everything went wrong. I went wrong, and as I came across, I came into the forest here, the trees are all down, I couldn't get through.
The roots here.
All my route planning went completely to pot. I couldn't do anything. I came in, the routes had been blown, a storm, Arwin. I couldn't get any further. So what I show in this video is I show how I get around it. No, I show, what I did on here, I show you how I reversed my route. So I reversed my route to get me out of where the situation was in, and actually show you how I plan a route on it. So I replanned a new route directly on my GPS device and got myself out of situation. This walk ended up with me walking in the dark. Do you know what I mean? So it's taking all your GPS skills to the extreme. And so you can see the title, not everything works out as it should. So I planned my route, went out, did everything as I should do, and then I couldn't get through the pattern. I did a track back, I did X, Y, and Z. And I would say, watch these videos and just keep yourself familiarized. I start off every one. So on this one, I start off with our free route planning software. I always start off with the middle. It's just kind of the practice, putting the principles of what we've learned into practice, isn't it, really? So again, that's the walk and talk series, which I have a look at. You know, it's something we put a massive amount of effort into. And if you watch those, some of them are 20 minutes long, some of them are 35 minutes. You've got hours of watching. You can watch them. They're on YouTube. Watch them on your television, on your smart TV or whatever. But it gets you used to the navigation experience. You can see the process you need to go to and good practice. Because, hey, if I took you for a day's walk in the Chief Hills and taught you how to use your GPS unit, it'd be cheap. It'd be far more expensive than me taking on a YouTube film. Be a lot more expensive than me taking on a YouTube film. So utilize those if you can. Okay, I'm going to send you links to these websites that we've mentioned: Walk Islands, GPS Routes, Walk Englishman, Walking World, Harrow Street, etc., etc. And then finally, other resources that we have. So we've looked at the online resource already. We have webinars on GPS units. Basecamp webinar we do for PC and Mac users. One-to-one courses, we do those physical now and now online. We do those around the country. Training support portal, I'll show you quickly the training support portal, and then 2-day GPS training courses. So I'm in the Peak District this weekend, going down there, delivering a course, spend 2 days learning how to use your GPS unit, and then the GPS training podcast. So I'm going to show you the support portal and courses. So if you want to come on a course, GPS training course at the top, and there we are. Locations in the Peak District this weekend in a lovely place called Grindleford, and you can join me on a 2-day GPS training course. First day on using the unit, second day on using a Garmin Basecamp. I'm just going to scroll down to support portal. This is a real. I only usually show people who do course and webinars with me. This is a really nice sneak preview of answers to the problems. If you scroll down on our website, right down to the bottom, you'll see this link here that says support. This takes you to the back end of our support portal. So if you come across a problem, even if it's to do with Basecamp or to come with your GPS unit or anything, scroll down here 24 hours a day and press this support button. This takes you to a special place, which is our support portal. If I tell you in the nicest possible way, I'm I'll show you this quickly. This is all our emails in our business come into this area here, and we assign them accordingly. You can imagine the number of questions we get asked a day, which are the same questions, and often we just send a standard response. But you can have access to those standard responses 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even if you don't have a support portal, a support package with us. So if you just click on that support down the bottom and click on solutions, you can see all our stock answers that we give to everybody. So there's 277 Garmin stock answers that you can have. So again, you can literally just search for a question, and it could be, so for example, trial mapping appears on the screen. This comes up all the time. Garmin put some trial mapping on my GPS unit. Why is this coming up on my screen? Hey, there's the message you get. You just press accept. All right. So you could put like going overseas. Okay, if I can spell it, help overseas. Okay, position format going overseas. All right, so I'm going overseas. What can I do? You need to match up your map data when you're going overseas. Here's a link to another article that tells you the various, what you need to do. Enter the minimum 4 satellites, calibrate your compass, and here's some position formats that we could do. So it takes you to various bits. So these are all our stock answers. So if you want to find out an answer, go down to that sports section, and there's answers for Garmin Basecamp, 69 questions with now a lot of these can be like current issues. So this is like 18th of July 2019, anomalies of GPX information, trip computer paired to record track on Basecamp. So again, if there's faults, this is our standard answer, because we can maybe get half a dozen people asking us. We can just copy and paste and send this to you. But again, you can access these 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you do have a problem, and even if you have a support package, go here and find those questions. You can even you can press this little icon and ask Jeffrey, our GPS training bot, a question. Jeffrey will answer the question. He goes into the same answers that we've just been looking at there. All right, so I think that's everything. Oh, GPS training we want to do. Have a look. Again, we've got quite a good website now where we can search for things. So again, you saw I search for a product or GPX files or something like that. If you are looking for GPX or something along those lines, search for GPX. It puts the products at the top, like the Masterclass, courses, etc. What is a GPX file? Recommended websites. All right. Okay. One last thing I mentioned there was the podcast. If you all people listen to a podcast, please do listen to the GPS Training Podcast. You can listen to it online if you want to, or you can download it on whatever application you listen to podcasts on. Again, free of charge, once a month, at least once a month, and you get lots of top tips and things in it. So again, if you can listen to it, please do. Again, I always say it keeps your head in gear, doesn't it? We talk about waypoints, we talk about routes, we talk about tracks, we talk about problems other people are having. It just keeps your head in gear of, all right, yeah, I remember John said that in that webinar 3 years ago, yeah, or whatever. A lot of rubbish in it as well, but anyway, that's life, isn't it? If you have any questions, please ask them. I very much hope you've enjoyed the webinar. I'm going to send you all a quick email with various links in to things that we've discussed this evening, and I very much hope you enjoyed it. I will send you a copy of a recording of the webinar tomorrow. Please just be patient. I'm just going to edit it, burn it, edit it, and upload it to YouTube. So it's usually going to be mid to late tomorrow afternoon before I do it, but it will be done before I leave the office at 4 o'clock tomorrow to go and pick up the GPS training van, which a nice member of staff managed to hit a calf with. It's now been repaired. That's another story in its own right. We should have that one on the podcast, shouldn't we? It wasn't me, I may add. So have a good evening. I hope it's helped in some way. If there's any questions, please feel free to reply to the email that I send you. And yeah, thank you for your kind words. I think I'm going to go home and go to bed now. Exhausted at the end of the day's work. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. You've been good. Yeah, some good questions answered at the start. So I really appreciate it. Have a lovely evening. And yeah, thanks for joining me on this latest webinar. And again, I will send you a link. If you can leave some feedback on the website, that is really appreciated, because it hopefully tells other people that we do what we do good. Thank you, Simon. Makes me smile, bring a tear to my eye at 8 o'clock at night. I do appreciate it. Thanks very much, guys, and have a good evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.